You believe that success will liberate you. You imagine that wealth will finally give you the silence you always craved, that when the numbers in your account rise, the noise of struggle will fall away, that admiration will replace the quiet neglect that once haunted you. You imagine a morning where you wake up and, for the first time, you are not running. You are arriving. You picture the people who doubted you pausing, acknowledging, maybe even regretting. But what you don't yet understand is that success, the kind that changes your status and bends attention toward you, does not bring silence. It brings the opposite, a new kind of noise, more refined, more disguised, but louder and heavier in its consequences. Because when you become rich, when you rise above the crowd, you enter a world made entirely of eyes. Eyes that see only what glitters, not what bleeds. Eyes that do not look at you, but through you, searching for access, advantage, and weakness. You will think you are being celebrated. You will think they admire you. But Machiavelli would whisper from 5 centuries away, they admire what they can use. The applause, the smiles, the compliments, they are the polite masks of envy. They hide the question that every human secretly asks when they see another person's success. Why not me? You may not hear it, but you will feel it in the subtle withdrawal of warmth, the way conversations begin to change tone, the way laughter starts to carry a different intention. It's not hatred. It's something colder, something that studies you, measures you, and waits for you to expose yourself. Because the moment you speak too freely about your wealth, your plans, your vision, you stop being admired and start being calculated. Machiavelli understood human nature in its most uncomfortable truth, that people are not loyal to your success. They are loyal to what your success gives them. A prince, he said, must never reveal his entire hand, because predictability is the death of power. When people know too much about your wealth, they begin to build invisible maps of how to reach it. They begin to position themselves not as friends, but as strategists, each one planning their move inside your story. Your fortune becomes a field they want to walk on, and every word you say becomes a clue, every gesture a signal. The richer you become, the more others turn into quiet mathematicians of your downfall. That is why the wise man stays silent. That is why the fool loses what he earned. Because silence is not just the absence of noise, it's the presence of control. You may think you are protecting your money, but what you are really guarding is your sovereignty, the right to live without being interpreted. Every time you explain yourself, you give someone the blueprint to manipulate you. Every time you announce your next move, you give someone time to prepare their counterattack. Every time you share your joy too publicly, you remind those who lack it of their own pain. And pain, when disguised as admiration, becomes envy, the most corrosive emotion in human society. You will learn this the hard way. You will tell yourself that openness builds trust, that honesty invites connection. You will post the photo, share the milestone, mention the purchase, and at first it will feel good, the validation, the approval, the little storm of digital affection. But then something subtle will shift. You will sense eyes on you that do not wish you well. You will notice that people who once cheered your small victories now measure your big ones. They won't say it, but you will feel it. The air gets heavier. The room feels different when you walk in. You become the story, and every story attracts an antagonist. The world rewards humility, but it feeds on spectacle. And when you give it your success to devour, it will not stop until it has tasted your fall. That's why Machiavelli warned rulers to hide their wealth behind strategy. He knew that power and transparency are incompatible. A ruler who reveals everything is a ruler who invites invasion. You must learn to live in what he called the art of necessary deceit, not lying to others, but withholding what truth cannot protect. The more you have, the less you must reveal, because every treasure announced is a war declared. There is a strange paradox in human psychology that Machiavelli understood before there was ever a word for it. People love the idea of success, but they despise the reality of it when it stands too close. They admire you when you're still striving, because your struggle reassures them that the hierarchy remains intact. But when you reach the top, when you rise beyond reach, you become an uncomfortable mirror reflecting everything they haven't achieved. And so, admiration curdles into resentment. They don't wish to destroy you immediately. They wish to witness the erosion, slow, poetic, deserved. That's why when you speak of your wealth, you awaken something dark in others, something that watches, waits, and collects reasons to see you stumble. This is why Machiavelli said that love is a fragile foundation for power. It is better to be feared than loved, he wrote, not because fear is noble, but because fear is stable. Love changes with circumstance. Fear endures through respect. And in the world of wealth, respect is born not from generosity, but from distance. The more you share, the smaller you become. The less you reveal, the larger you grow in the imagination of others. Silence inflates your legend. Exposure deflates it. What people cannot see, they cannot diminish. When you become rich, you must become selective, not only with your time, but with your truth. You must understand that most people are not listening to understand. They are listening to compare. They hear your story not as inspiration, but as evidence that they are behind. They will disguise advice as curiosity, concern as empathy, but behind it all lies the need to know your formula. Because once they know how you built it, they can either imitate it or dismantle it. The more they know, the less they respect. Mystery commands reverence. Transparency invites judgment, and this is where most fail. They confuse visibility with value. They think being seen will multiply their worth, when in truth, it dilutes it. A secret known by everyone loses its magic. A fortune spoken aloud loses its aura. Machiavelli taught that appearances should be engineered, not improvised. You must decide what version of your story the world deserves to see. You are not obligated to share the truth. You are obligated to protect it, because truth is vulnerable. Truth can be weaponized. Truth can be twisted until it serves everyone but you. Think of power like light. The brighter it shines, the more shadows it casts. When you stand in that light too long, you stop seeing who hides in the dark. The envious do not announce themselves. They move quietly through praise, through subtle guilt, through dependence. They ask for favors disguised as friendship. They make you responsible for their dreams, and before you know it, you are trapped. The king enslaved by the applause of his court. This is the tragedy Machiavelli wrote about in the language of politics, but it applies perfectly to modern wealth. You do not lose power by giving money. You lose it by giving access. That's why silence must become your discipline. Strategic silence, the kind that makes people uncertain, the kind that lets curiosity work for you. When you no longer explain your actions, you force others to fill the void with their imagination, and imagination is a powerful ally. It exaggerates, it mystifies, it glorifies. People start to see more in you than you ever claimed, and that illusion, if managed correctly, is stronger than truth. You don't have to lie. You just have to stop narrating your life to people who don't deserve to hear it. But silence is not easy. It will test your ego. You will crave acknowledgement. You will want to be understood, to be admired, to be included. Yet Machiavelli would warn you, the desire to be understood is the seed of your undoing. A prince does not explain himself to the crowd. He lets results speak for him. You, too, must learn to endure misunderstanding without the need to correct it. Because the moment you defend yourself, you lower yourself to the level of those who question you. The sovereign never argues. He acts, and his actions become law. So when you grow rich, Hide the symbols of your wealth, not because you are ashamed, but because you are protecting meaning. Luxury loses its essence when it becomes spectacle. True wealth doesn't glitter, it hums quietly in confidence. Let the world think you are ordinary. Let them assume. The fewer they know, the freer you remain. When they underestimate you, they expose themselves. When they overestimate you, they reveal their envy. Either way, your silence wins. Imagine walking into a room where everyone is trying to prove something. One man flashes his watch, another drops names, a third talks about his success as if he's auditioning for validation. You, however, say nothing. You observe, you nod, you speak only when necessary. And when you do, every word cuts through the noise like a blade through fabric. That is real power. That is Machiavellian mastery. Not domination through volume, but through presence. You don't need to declare your wealth when your composure already reveals it. The loud man seeks recognition. The quiet one already owns it. Try this experiment. Withdraw for a while. Speak less about your wins. Announce nothing. Move in silence. You will see something fascinating. People will start inventing versions of your life that may be grander than reality. Their imagination will do your work for you. They will attribute strategy to what was simply discipline. They will sense your distance as power, and in that misinterpretation lies your greatest leverage, because in the human mind, mystery always outranks certainty. And then something profound happens. Your silence doesn't just protect your wealth, it multiplies it. When your energy no longer leaks through constant validation seeking, it condenses into focus. You work sharper, you spend wiser, you invest deeper. The money you once used to prove now grows quietly under discipline. Silence becomes the soil of multiplication. The less you say, the more you build. The less you show, the more you hold. Machiavelli understood that discretion was not modesty. It was mathematics. You will be misunderstood, yes. They will call you arrogant, secretive, detached. Let them. Their judgment is a reflection of their own transparency addiction. The powerful are always accused of hiding, because the powerless cannot stand what they cannot access. But there is no greater freedom than being misread by those who never took the time to understand you anyway. When you become rich, remember, every revelation is a transaction. Every truth you share has a cost, and the world is full of merchants of curiosity waiting to trade your privacy for attention. Don't sell cheap what took years to build. Guard it. Protect it. And above all, stay silent until your presence alone speaks louder than your words ever could. Because Machiavelli was right. The wise act immediately. The fool eventually. And when it comes to power, delay in understanding this rule is the difference between a kingdom and a ruin. You begin to notice the difference between possession and control. Possession is easy. It can be counted, flaunted, displayed. But control is invisible. It is the unseen discipline of those who no longer need to prove that they have won. Wealth without control is a stage. Wealth with control is a throne, and the one who sits quietly upon it understands that visibility is vulnerability. Every time the world looks at you, it extracts something, an opinion, an expectation, a projection. And if you are not careful, their projections will start to define you more than your own truth ever could. Machiavelli would have smiled at this realization, for he wrote that the wise ruler must learn not only to appear powerful, but to remain unpredictable. Predictability is an invitation to manipulation. Once your behavior can be anticipated, your enemies can prepare for it. Once your generosity becomes pattern, parasites form around it. Once your lifestyle becomes spectacle, it breeds imitation, and imitation invites competition. The crowd does not want to be inspired by you, it wants to become you, and once it fails, it will resent you for being the evidence of its failure. This is why true power moves in silence. The lion does not announce its hunt, it strikes without ceremony. The eagle does not post its flight, it circles above unseen until the moment of descent. In this world of endless exposure, the only real luxury left is privacy. Privacy has become the new gold, the possession of those who have transcended the need for recognition. The poor seek attention because they confuse it with existence. The rich seek invisibility because they understand that exposure is erosion. The moment too many know your path, your power begins to fade. And yet, the hardest battle you will face is not against the envy of others, but against the vanity within yourself. Because wealth whispers temptations that sound like innocence. Show them what you've achieved. Let them see that you made it. That whisper is not encouragement. It is seduction. It is the ego demanding applause for survival. Machiavelli would warn you that this impulse is the most dangerous form of weakness, the kind that dresses itself as confidence. The moment you need others to see your power, you have already given it away. For the ruler who depends on the perception of power no longer has real power, he has a costume. You will also learn that isolation is not punishment, it is refinement. When you stop sharing your victories, you will lose many of the people who once surrounded you. They were not your allies, they were your audience. They came not to build, but to watch. And when the show ends, they leave in search of another performance. Let them. Do not chase what must depart. Loneliness in mastery is sacred. It sharpens perception, purifies intention, and teaches you to stand within yourself without collapsing into others. The noise outside fades, and the silence inside begins to speak. That is when you start hearing your own counsel again, not the chorus of spectators. The wealthy man who hides his wealth is not fearful, he is free. He knows that the fewer people who know what he holds, the fewer threads they can pull to unravel him. Secrecy is not deceit, it is self-preservation. A fortress does not reveal the depth of its walls because that knowledge belongs only to the builder. You, too, must become an architect of boundaries, firm, elegant, invisible. Every person who knows less about your wealth knows less about your weakness. Every secret unspoken is one weapon fewer that can be used against you. And then there is loyalty, the rarest currency of all. Machiavelli warned princes to reward loyalty not with affection, but with structure. Love without discipline decays into entitlement. Generosity without distance transforms gratitude into greed. You must learn to give through systems, not through impulse. The spontaneous gift wins hearts for a day. The structured reward wins respect for a lifetime. Your role is not to please. It is to command quietly without arrogance, but with the certainty of someone who understands how power sustains itself, not through emotion, but through order. There will come a moment when you realize that the greatest form of influence is silence under provocation. The more you rise, the more the world will try to provoke you, to pull a reaction, to extract a confession, to see if your power is real or merely borrowed. They will push with insults disguised as humor, questions disguised as concern, friendship disguised as leverage. Responding feeds them, silence starves them. Nothing frightens the manipulative more than the sound of their own words echoing unanswered. Machiavelli knew this, and so must you. Composure is the final demonstration of dominance. When you can remain still while others lose control, your presence becomes the weapon. In this stillness, a transformation begins. You start to move differently, slower, deliberate, with gravity. You stop explaining because you realize that explanation is an act of submission. You stop correcting misconceptions because you understand that myths about you are often more useful than truths. Let them think what they wish. When people cannot access the real version of you, they are forced to construct one, and their construction always serves your mystery. Every misunderstanding they create becomes another veil between your reality and their curiosity. And behind those veils, you build unbothered. Wealth, when protected by silence, changes its nature. It becomes less about acquisition and more about rhythm. You begin to understand that what matters is not how much you own, but how little can control you. You begin to measure value not by what is seen, but by what remains unseen. Peace, focus, stability, restraint. The true empire is internal. That is the secret Machiavelli left between the lines. The throne you must guard first is not made of gold, but of composure. For the man who rules himself cannot be ruled by others. But the world will test this serenity. There will be betrayals, disguised in the shape of loyalty. There will be moments where silence feels unbearable, where speaking your truth feels like relief. Resist. The greatest victories often happen in the space where you choose not to react. The less predictable your response, the more powerful your position. Every pause you maintain creates pressure in others. They begin to wonder what you know, what you plan, what you intend. That tension, invisible yet palpable, is the essence of Machiavellian influence. You do not need to act to dominate. You only need to remain unreadable. In time, you will learn to use perception itself as a shield. Machiavelli wrote that people see not what you are, but what you appear to be. Therefore, appear selectively. Construct your image not as a reflection of truth, but as a reflection of intention. Show enough to be respected, but never enough to be decoded. The world must sense your wealth, not see it. It must feel your power, not measure it. The aura of control is always stronger than control itself, because perception spreads faster than reality. When you master the art of appearances, you no longer chase influence. You become the standard by which others measure it. And then there is the inner rebellion, the part of you that still wants to be seen, acknowledged, validated. You must tame it, not by suppression, but by redirection. Turn that need for recognition inward, transform it into discipline. Let your satisfaction come not from being admired, but from being unshakable. You will discover that silence feeds something deeper than pride. It feeds sovereignty. Every moment you resist the urge to reveal, you are strengthening the muscle of control. And control, in Machiavelli's world, is the only real proof of intelligence. The rich man who speaks too much becomes predictable. The rich man who explains himself becomes ordinary. The rich man who disappears becomes legend. When absence begins to carry more weight than presence, you have crossed the threshold from success into myth. The world does not remember the loud, it remembers the unforgettable. And the unforgettable are those who manage to vanish while leaving the echo of their name in every room they've touched. You will come to see that even generosity must be wrapped in discretion. Give quietly. Help without spectacle. Influence without declaration. The most powerful benefactors in history never signed their names because influence unacknowledged grows deeper roots. When people benefit from your actions without knowing their source, gratitude transforms into awe. You become less a person and more a force. That is the highest form of power, to move the world without revealing your hand. But what of love? Can you be loved and remain hidden? Yes, but only by those rare souls who love essence, not evidence. The one who truly loves you will not need proof of your wealth because your composure will already reveal your worth. They will not ask what you own, but how you hold yourself. They will not crave your exposure, but your stillness, and that love, quiet and private, is the only kind that survives power. Machiavelli understood that love based on visibility dies with the first rumor. But love rooted in silence that endures kingdoms. Soon you will notice that your relationship with time changes. You stop rushing. You stop announcing deadlines. You stop chasing applause. You begin to move with the patience of someone who knows that control is not speed, it is direction. You choose your words, the way a strategist places pieces on a board, each with intention, none wasted. When you finally speak, it will no longer be for attention, but for effect. Your silence will have conditioned others to listen differently. Every sentence will fall like a decree. That is the power of scarcity. The fewer words you spend, the more value they hold. And yet, there will always be temptation. The world will lure you with its illusions, the urge to impress, the call of status, the intoxication of being seen. Do not demonize these desires. Study them, master them. The Machiavellian mind does not reject human nature. It manipulates it. You do not fight the ego. You train it to serve your strategy. You let it speak only when its voice amplifies your influence. You reward it with restraint, not indulgence. And slowly, ego becomes ally, the silent guardian of your image rather than its saboteur. In the end, you will realize that wealth was never the goal. It was the test. It reveals who you are when you finally have enough to stop pretending. Some collapse into noise, others rise into stillness. Those who cannot handle the weight of secrecy are crushed by their own visibility. Those who can endure the silence become untouchable. For every man who falls to greed, there is another who learns to disappear into mastery. You must decide which one you will become. Now, let's turn this philosophy into ritual, into something tangible. Start by drawing 3 circles. In the first, write the names of those who know everything about your life. In the second, those who know a little. In the third, those who know nothing. Over time, your goal is simple. Shrink the first circle until it holds only you. Because in the kingdom of success, even allies can become liabilities. The smaller your circle, the larger your control. Then create what Machiavelli would have called the ritual of invisibility. Once a month, vanish. No posts, no updates, no words. Let the world taste your absence. Watch how quickly curiosity replaces familiarity. Disappear to remind them of your mystery. Because attention is like fire. It burns bright, then it consumes. But curiosity lingers forever. And finally, write this somewhere only you can see. Every truth I speak will serve my power. This is not cynicism, it is precision. It means you will never again speak for comfort, only for purpose. It means you will not waste your voice explaining, convincing, or defending. It means you will speak less but matter more. The fewer your words, the deeper your echo. This is your evolution, from visible success to invisible mastery. From the noise of applause to the silence of respect. From the desire to be loved to the strength to be feared and yet untouchable. You will no longer chase admiration. You will attract it through absence. You will no longer flaunt wealth. You will let it reshape the atmosphere around you. You will no longer feed the crowd. You will make them hungry for your mystery. This is not arrogance. It is sovereignty. And now the final question remains. When your time comes, when your fortune rises and the world finally turns its gaze toward you, will you have the strength to remain silent? Will you guard your gold or offer it for validation? Will you walk as a mystery among the loud or as another echo lost in the noise? Answer this, not to me, but to yourself. And when you are ready, disappear and let your silence speak for you. If these words reached you, if you felt their weight, leave your answer in the comments. Tell me, will you guard your power or sell it for applause? Subscribe for more. And in the next video, we will explore how to remain untouchable even when the world demands your downfall.